everybody, hope all is well, hope all is well. So we are here with Let's Converse. It is definitely a conversation. I have Legislator Scott Davis here, who is running for the 1st District. And I'm going to give him an opportunity, because you guys know what I always say. It is better for them to tell you a little bit about themselves before I start talking about all the great things I know. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And Legislator Scott Davis, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. If any of you don't know, I am the incumbent legislator for Legislative District Number 1, which is comprised of the village of Hempstead and the village of Rockville Center. I was elected in 2023 and started in January of 2024. And it has been quite an experience in many, many very good ways. And I've had the opportunity to deliver and do really good things for my district. Having said that, we have a little bit of a curveball now, because we now have a new district. And that new district is made up of 5 different places. So I live in Rockville Center. Rockville Center is still part of Legislative District Number 1. The second part of the district is South Hempstead, all of South Hempstead. And instead of representing a larger part of Hempstead, I now represent a smaller part of Hempstead, the southern part by the Southern State Parkway, up to about Greenwich.
Okay.
And then there are 2 other legislators who are running for the remaining part of that. Alina Nix is running for the central part, and Viviana Russell is running for the northeast corner of Hempstead. So with 3 people running to represent the village of Hempstead. The other 2 parts of the new district are North Baldwin, from Seaman Avenue to the Southern State Parkway, and finally all of Roosevelt. So I've been spending a lot of time not only taking care of my district, but also going into South Hempstead, Baldwin, and Roosevelt, and getting people to know me and me getting to know them. I'm not a stranger to Baldwin. That was my first home.
Okay.
That was my first home, and I lived there for about 9 years before moving to Rockville Center. So I'm very familiar with Baldwin. I actually coached basketball for the PAL there, and I coached about 6 or 7 years the Baldwin Bombers. Even when I moved from Baldwin to Rockville Center, I continued to do that. So this is part of what I'm doing in addition to attending to my district as well.
Okay, so you're covering Baldwin, Rockville Center,
South Hempstead,
South Hempstead, okay.
Roosevelt,
okay, and Roosevelt,
and Hempstead. So 5 places.
okay, and Hempstead. Well, let's just jump into the questions, because I know that I appreciate, and I know that being that you're actually running, I know that right now you probably have a lot of people that you have to get to. So my first question that I actually want to ask about is, what inspired you to run for county legislator?
That is a great question, and here's my answer to that. Me becoming a legislator was not something that I was looking to do. I was always involved in community activities, whether, as I indicated, I coached youth sports, I was a mentor, I taught trial advocacy, and I was part of a nonprofit that I formed in Rockville Center for the MLK, Friends of MLK in Rockville Center. And we provided, just to provide resources for the west side of Rockville Center. And when this new district was formed in 2023, I looked at this as an opportunity to do things on a bigger platform where I could get more information, access to information and resources, utilize my experience as a father, husband, coach, teacher, lawyer, and use all those things for good, to do good. And I would like to think that since I've been in office, that's exactly what I've done.
Okay, wonderful. So, how does your background prepare you for the role of a legislator?
So, as an attorney, I litigate. I've tried many, many cases. And part of trying a case is taking information, processing it, and getting out a message.
Right.
But in order to effectively convey that message, you have to understand your audience. You have to understand who you're talking to. So for me, I look at it, I have those skills to do that, and the other part of that is getting into the community, listening, talking to people, having genuine conversations with them so that you can address their needs. Quite often people ask me, well, what do you think about an issue? And I tell most people the answer is that it's what do you think about it, because I represent you.
Right.
And for me to effectively represent my community, I have to understand and know what my community wants.
Right.
And I also believe that a community wants to be heard. It doesn't mean that when they have an issue that I could answer or solve every issue, but I can certainly respond to their questions and their issues and give them the best answer that I can. Obviously, you always want to deliver, but sometimes it may not be an issue that is consistent with what I do, and it could be a state issue, it could be a town issue, it could be a village issue, and those are things that are not in my control.
Right.
But I do my very best to help them as the best way I can.
Okay, I think that's really great with your background to be able to, get the word out there to let people know in terms of the advocacy, especially being a lawyer. That's good, because that means you're always in the fight to do the right thing for people. So how will you ensure that the neighborhood and everybody within your district is represented fairly?
By listening. So I believe in transparency, and I believe in access. And if somebody calls my office, we respond.
Right.
And I've been told that people see me everywhere. Everywhere I go, I see that, and I get that. And there's a reason. And the reason is that's what my job is.
Right.
And it's to show up. It's not only to show up, but to show up and listen. And when you are going somewhere, at least I believe, you need to have an authentic experience.
Right.
And whatever the event is, you go, you're a meaningful participant in that experience, you listen, you talk.
Right.
You swim in other people's pools, so you can look at the world through their lens, and you have an understanding of what their needs are and why they are the way they are.
Right. I believe that strongly, that you never really understand what people are going through unless you walk in their shoes. And to be amongst them, that gives you a better understanding of the needs, and you seeing it for yourself versus that everybody, the only time they, see you is when election time come around.
Right.
Instead of just constantly staying out there, especially if you're, supposed to be representing the people within the community. Walking amongst them and talking to them is definitely a good thing. Shopping in the supermarket,
It's everywhere.
which is important.
I mean, literally, I like to be outdoors. I like to ride my bicycle.
Right.
I like to run. And I see people, they stop me, and I think it's a great opportunity,
Yeah.
because it's not a formal experience, and you're just two people or whoever are there having a conversation about an issue that is important to them.
Exactly.
So, and to me, I believe in going everywhere. And whether it's the library, the Chamber of Commerce, the hospitals, the universities, the civic associations, the block associations, whatever it is, if I'm aware of it, I go to it. And I go to it for those reasons that we just spoke about.
Yeah, a public official, the key word is public. We're supposed to be public.
Absolutely.
Be out there.
Absolutely.
Right. And I have to say that I do see you every single place. Every time I turn, jump on Facebook, Instagram, or I'm just out and about, I do see you every single place. So that's important.
Well, I should say this. People sometimes ask me, well, that must be a lot. And my response is really very simple. I actually really do enjoy it.
Yeah.
I really do, and I really do enjoy getting to know people. To broaden my circle of knowledge and experience.
Mm-hmm.
And learning about all different aspects of where we live,
Right.
so that I have a fair understanding of it. And once you get to know any group or organization, you'll find that there's always a lot that much more that you have in common than
Right.
there are differences. And so for me, I enjoy that experience of getting to know different aspects of my constituencies, the residents, and finding common ground and developing relationships so that I could service them the best way that I can.
That's the best way, when you actually enjoy it, because as a public service, I have to say that when you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. You never get tired, and you look forward to seeing people. So that is definitely
Sure.
important.
And I think that probably, this is a bit of advice for our listeners here, and when you're evaluating somebody, the main question you should ask, in my opinion, is, why are you doing it? Why is this person seeking this position? And I've explained to you, from my perspective, the why for me is because it comes from my heart.
Right.
It's because I love doing it. I'm not, people, believe it or not, ask me quite often, well, what's the next thing for you? And my answer is very simple. I don't think about next. I think about now. And I think about doing the best job that I can do now.
Exactly.
And if you do that, everything is fine. But the moment you start looking down the road, you're not doing your job. And for me, the why is because I feel I have been very fortunate. My journey was from very modest to a little less modest.
Right.
And I appreciate that. And having said that, at a certain point, what's more important is not what you can take, but what you can give.
Right.
And I believe that if you have the ability, you have the responsibility.
Right.
The only thing for me was just getting over that curve of being uncomfortable being in a very public position.
Right.
That doesn't exist anymore. I would like to think in the last 2 years, I've really grown into the position. I'm much more comfortable being public and being in the light of the public.
Right.
And so for me, that's really not an issue anymore. And I just want to continue to serve and to continue to grow being the best advocate I can for my constituents.
I agree. I think that's a good way to look at it. Why? That was the first question. Everybody want to know why.
Absolutely.
What inspired you to run? I think that is a very important, reason to ask, yourself all the time. Why am I doing this? And after a while, when you're amongst people all the time, you start to get people that's always going to be on your side. That sometime when you're not even in the room, they're speaking up for you because they see the work that you're doing. So, it becomes like a part of, your political family, and everybody will kind of bring you in to say, you know what, I support you and I see what you're doing.
I have to tell
and
you,
I speak on your behalf.
I see that really does happen to me quite a bit.
Yeah.
And in fact, I just got a call very recently, a direct message from my social media, and no one I knew, and she asked me to bring over a lawn sign.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe I did it myself. I brought it in, and I wanted to look this woman in the eye and say thank you. And when I did, she was like, I want to thank you for all that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens quite often, and I appreciate that. But the side effect of it is that it validates for me that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is resonating with the constituents. And so when you have those hard days, when you're fighting those battles, what for me, I think of them.
Yeah.
And and that gives me the energy to continue to do it, because I'm not thinking of myself. I'm just a vessel. I'm thinking of all of them. And this is what I'm supposed to do. So that really does inspire me to continue doing what I do.
Wonderful. I mean, we could definitely talk about that all day long. because
Absolutely.
People, it's my thing. I love people, you know. That's
Mhm.
what gives me the energy every
Sure.
single day to do what I do, especially when it comes to the kids and their family. How will you keep in touch with everyday residents and ensure their voices are heard?
So there are several ways. I have my email, sdavis@nassaucountynY.gov, and I have instructed my staff, if there's any correspondence, it is a web. As soon as you go in there, we are aware of it, and we might not respond in that instant, but we will always respond. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is that I put up social media to show people what I'm doing, and they have an avenue to respond to that. And the third thing that I do is I go everywhere.
Right.
And I talk to people. And I also have, I just had a recent meet the legislator with Alina Nix over at Kennedy Park.
Okay.
Come in. You want to sit down and talk about whatever issues you have? Now's the time to do it. So I make myself available to interface with the residents as well.
Okay, I think that's a great way for people to actually get to know you and the different districts that you'll be covering.
Sure.
So how do you plan to address property taxes and affordability in Nassau County?
So, good question.
Thank you.
And so I actually just wrote an op-ed piece in the Herald, and it spoke to the title of the article was "All That Glitters Isn't Gold."
I read it.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, and we're approaching budget season in the legislature right now.
Right.
The projected budget for Nassau County for fiscal year 2026 is going to be $4.4 billion. And a great deal of that money is used to run the county. It's salaries, benefits for the employees, DPW, supplies, IT. You have your all the different departments. It costs money to run the county.
Right.
So that's a big part of it. But having said that, you also want to be mindful of how we spend the other part of that budget money.
Right.
So, as an example, in 2025, the administration has spent about $23 million hiring outside counsel to defend lawsuits, where the county attorney, a staff of county attorneys to represent the county, their budget is about $6 million.
Wow.
And so it seems to me they're using this money to fight lawsuits that they shouldn't have instituted the laws in the first place.
Right.
As a prime example, Newsday, the official newspaper of Nassau County. Well, they amended the charter and passed through this legislation to change it to the New York Post, a New York City-based newspaper, instead of Long Island's newspaper that touches more people.
So now we're using the
The
Post?
official newspaper of Long Island is now the New York Post, and Newsday has sued them. And the Blakeman administration has hired outside counsel to defend that.
Right.
Another example, the militia.
Right.
So Bruce Blakeman has hired a private militia as an extra layer of security. And so as a legislator, checks and balances. Well, what is this all about? Who is going to, what's the training like? How are they going to get paid? Who's responsible for them? What about the liability in the event that you're putting an extra layer of security in the county that is for 3 years or more running now, the safest county in the United States. The safest county in the United States of America, and there are over 31 counties in the United States of America. And we are the safest, surrounded by Queens to the west and Suffolk to the east, who are in the top 25 safest counties in America. And do we really need this? So we, the Democratic caucus, foiled to get information about this, and we were denied our request. So myself and Deborah Millay have sued the Blakeman administration for this.
Right.
Outside counsel has been hired to defend that.
More money's being
More
spent.
money spent. Let's talk about the Sands Casino development. And let's talk about the development at the Nassau NCC, the community college, for a medical facility. Both of those projects have evaporated, gone down the tubes. So to the tune of potential $8+ billion of potential revenue generating projects for the county.
Right.
And we're spending money on promoting the Blakeman administration instead of watching our money. And I believe, it seems to me like you're spending money with the idea that you were going to get these things. Now you don't have them, and it's going to create a deficit. So we have to be mindful of what we do, how we do it, so that whatever money we do have,
Right.
it's used efficiently.
So are they going to give you answers to the money that's actually being spent for the security?
We are actually in the middle of a lawsuit right now. Deborah Millay and I are suing the Blakeman administration, and it is in court. So we want answers.
Right.
And it's there's no reason why we shouldn't be given answers to the details of a militia, and why there is no reason to have it in the first place. And if you do have it, and it's okay, well, why don't you just provide the information?
I totally understand where you're coming from. While I'm on that topic there, I also know in terms of you're very transparent, because some of the things that you have brought out about the capital plan, could you explain to everybody how that worked out and what actually took place in terms of the capital plan?
Sure. So there are something called CRPs, and each legislator there are 19 legislators in the county legislature, and each of us gets allocated amount of money annually. That is our money, and it is to bring back to the community. It's called CRPs, Community Revitalization Projects. And since I've been a legislator starting in January 2024, I believe the number now is the Republican-led legislators have submitted and been granted 58 projects. 58 projects.
Wow.
CRP projects.
The numbers went up.
58. And the Democrat-led districts, 2.
Oh, 2.
We're now at 2.
We're now at 2.
We're now at 2.
Before it's 0.
It was 0. Now we have a big 2 that are going through the process. So what we did, and this was a while back before it was 58 to 2, it was in the 30s or 40s to 0. We indicated to the Blakeman administration that they required our vote to pass a capital plan moving forward. They needed a supermajority. There are only 12 of them. They needed one more vote. And we stuck together as a minority caucus, Democratic minority caucus, and indicated that we are not going to give our vote for a capital plan until we start getting our fair share of the resources being committed to our communities as well. So as a result of that, it became a very contentious issue, and they tried everything to publishing our legislative telephone numbers and emails to and really gaslight the community that we were holding up projects for the county, and in essence it was just the opposite. We wanted to ensure that these projects were equitably distributed, not for 60% of the county, but 100% of the county. And as a result of that, we held up that vote until we got some movement. And we prioritized among the things that we wanted was first responder, firehouse, things of that nature, and we were able to get traction on that. So 14 of our CRPs were rolled into the capital plan, and they still haven't been made it their way through, but we allocated 14 projects in the capital plan, and those projects are going to hit our communities. But the unfortunate part about it is I can't go with any level of confidence to my constituents in Hempstead and Rockville Center and put in a CRP request and believe that I have any chance at all of reasonably getting that project funded and out to the community. And I can tell you that I started as a legislator with a number of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle at the same time, and every one of them has had their CRPs funded and in their communities, and we started at the same time. And there's only one reason for that. It's just pure, unadulterated politics. And that's not good government.
Right. While I'm on that topic, one of the things I know I have to bring up to ask you outside of the other questions is that I know that the water that initiative that you were able to put forth too. Could you tell us a little bit about the water that you were able to, the money that you was able to get us for the water for Hempstead?
Sure. So I started in January, and shortly thereafter, we were all called into an emergency executive session meeting. And we were told by the health commissioner that Hempstead has an issue with dioxin 1,4 in the water.
Right.
And apparently this has been an issue for a while. And the Governor Hochul has a mandate statewide to have this water, the dioxin 1,4 removed from the water. And for Hempstead, it's probably a $50 million issue.
Right.
And so I was aware of that, and concurrently, the American Rescue Plan money that was given by the Biden administration as a result of COVID, we were given $15 million, all the legislators, to use this money. Part of that money, it was $280 million in total, $15 million pot to bring to our communities among 19 legislators. And shortly after that emergency meeting, I was made aware that a Republican legislator was going to get $1 million in his community for the removal of 1,4 dioxin.
Right.
And so when I became aware of that, I advocated, along with now Senator Silvano, for our fair share of that money for the exact same problem.
Right.
And Silvano and myself, along with the Minority Caucus, prioritized that as the issue, the most important issue for us in terms of getting resources from that $15 million. And it took us 9 months. It took the Republican-led legislator a month. It took us 9 months of fighting and, again, withholding our vote which was needed for the capital plan in order for us to get that money. And because of the prioritization of that through the Minority Caucus and the fight that Silvano and myself, along with the members of the community, bringing attention to it, we finally got that money, and we were able to receive $1.75 million for Hempstead to start the process of getting that money. And shortly thereafter, Governor Hochul provided an additional $37 million toward that issue, that problem. So it's gone a long way from that, and I believe that shining the light on that issue at the time we did really helped along in the process.
Yes, it did, and we thank you for it. I was a part of that fight when I was in government.
Yes, you were.
How will you work to support the small businesses and the job growth in the districts?
So there are really two parts to that question. The first is, it's all about relationships.
Right.
And if there is a grand opening, at almost everyone. And it's just being out in the community, providing support. But it's about the infrastructure.
Right.
And making sure that our streets can handle the traffic and making the environment a conducive environment for people to shop. So I work in conjunction with the new Greater Hampton Chamber of Commerce. I work with the Rockville Center Chamber of Commerce to help create an environment that facilitates commerce in the community.
Right.
And also in this next year, between Hempstead and Rockville Center, there's about $8 million that's allocated just for infrastructure, streetscapes, and things of that nature to help facilitate the lifeblood of the community, which is commerce. And it's all mostly small business.
Excellent. What role do you think the legislators should play in improving local schools?
That it really is the state controls the schools, but it doesn't mean that as a legislator you can't be a part of any solution.
Right.
And I mean, it's funny you mention it because there's a new superintendent in the Village of Hempstead School District.
Yes.
And I literally met with him today.
Oh, okay.
So, and I've met with the superintendent of Rockville Center. I've met with the superintendent of Roosevelt. I'm scheduled to meet with the superintendent of Baldwin. So, for me, it's about creating relationships, and even if it's a state issue, perhaps there are other things that I can do, state issue in terms of funding and things like that, but if there are things that I can do to help make the school the best version of what it can be, I believe in doing it.
Okay, wonderful. And how would you support programs for the youth, after-school program, recreation, and job readiness programs?
So, part of it is having a relationship with labor. And I'm proud to say that I have been endorsed by 1199, the Long Island Fed, LIUNA, Sheet Metal Workers Union, Communication Workers Association. So creating relationships with them where we can get them into the schools, like right, Roosevelt has one right now.
Right.
And I see doing things like that. You have all of these schools, everyone is not college oriented toward that, and there are many people who need different alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that involving unions in creating pipelines for employment opportunities in the trades, and you get them when they're in high school, and you get them into these apprenticeship programs, and when you have projects that they're required to, if it's a certain amount of money, that they're supposed to pull in people from their community and create opportunities for those in high school, etc. I think that's part of what you do. And also, I just love recreation, outdoors, that's my thing. So I'm very supportive of all those things. Probably one of the things that I really, really, really would love to see, and I think and we've spoken about it before, is Mershall Park.
Right.
And getting Mershall Park to be a place that is safe and clean and neat for a very marginalized community in Hempstead.
Right.
So that those children and the families have a place to safe place to go to enjoy the outdoors, a place to go to the bathroom,
Right.
a place to drink water, a place to meet when the weather is not good, a place other than the street, and a place other than their apartment where there are quite a bit of them.
I definitely agree with you on that. I think it's very important to have a recreational place, especially in your backyard. You shouldn't have to come all the way across town just to be able to enjoy, a park. A simple place is a park. You'd be surprised that sometimes you find some of the best athletes practicing in that park, and you say to yourself, boy, I remember they used to play basketball, and look, now they're an NBA player, or wow, they used to throw football. It all starts in these smaller parks.
Well, the fondest memories I have growing up in Hempstead, I played bitty basketball, midget football, lacrosse, you name the sport.
Yep.
Baseball I did at Kennedy Park, Lincoln Park, wherever it was. And not only was it great to get out and just be physical, but you also, sports teaches so many life lessons.
It does.
And it also brings people together. As you know from Hempstead, there's this thing about the hills and the heights, but that doesn't matter when you're on the team. And whatever your team is, or the only thing you care about, not whether they live on the heights or the hills, is can they play? Are they showing up? And what can they do to add to the team? And so those things, and to this day, I have many friends, I don't know that I necessarily would have even known who they were,
Right.
except for the fact that we play sports together. And I see them even now, and we have very fond memories of those experiences. So I really aspire to have those kind of experiences for those children over in the Marshall Park area.
Yes, I think that's definitely a good platform to work on. So I have another question here for you. How do you plan to work across the party line to get things done?
Well, you should know that despite what people may see,
Mm-hmm.
at every legislative event, I speak to everybody. I go on the other side of the aisle, and I talk to them, and I ask them how their family's doing. It's not like this adversarial relationship that I have with them. And so I make every effort that I can. When they introduced the prospective law about a mask ban, and I saw it, I thought that there could be some improvements in it. And I actually reached out to the other side and made some suggestions about that. And they incorporated those suggestions, not as much as I wanted to, and I wanted more, but I made the effort to do it. So I called, provided my recommendations, and part of them were incorporated into that. So for me, I think good government really does start with working together. I do believe in working together for the greater good. We're there for a reason.
Right.
And we're there to serve. We're not there, our agenda should be an agenda that benefits the public and our constituents, not the powers that be in the political parties. And so for me, I'm always willing to work with anyone to do something that's going to benefit the public.
Right.
And it doesn't matter to me. You can put your name on it all you want. It doesn't matter. As we work together and it's for the good of the public, then so be it.
Right. So it's not about politics, it's about people and getting the job done and working together. It's the only way to get things done.
And that is why I'm there.
Okay. Very good reason. So I have another question. The next question that was sent in to me was to ask, what do you feel about what's taking place right now with ICE?
I think that it's way overboard. And I think that it's being weaponized. Immigration is being weaponized. I don't think any of us want somebody who is here, who is illegal, who is committing crimes, to get the benefit of living here.
Right.
I don't think anyone stands for that. But I think it's being painted with a broad brush, and there are many people, and you see it, where there are people, like high school student, who essentially lived here all their lives, and they're being taken up and put in detention for however long and deported.
Right.
And is immigration an issue that has to be dealt with? 100%. But I also think that there has to be a comprehensive, bipartisan approach to that. And it shouldn't be used as a weapon of terror. And if I understand it correctly, what's going on right now is that it is being used as a weapon, and there are quotas for arrests, daily quotas for arrests, and I think we're better than that.
Right.
And we should be better than that. And if we have an immigration issue, then just like we're sitting at this round table, if you really do care, you really do have concerns about this issue, then sit down at the table, all of you, and come up with a plan. And if I remember it correctly, there actually was a bipartisan plan for immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And that plan, bipartisan plan, was scuttled. And so that tells me that you really didn't want the solution that was there, a bipartisan solution. And so yes, this is an issue that has to be dealt with, but it should not be weaponized, and it should be something that's comprehensive and thought out in a way that is fair, reasonable, and it has structure to it, not just randomly doing it like that's been done.
I understand where you're coming from. So, do you agree with Nassau County partnering with ICE?
No.
Okay. Do you support local police being deputized to arrest undocumented immigrants?
No.
Next question I have is, how do you plan to make sure that things are going to be transparent moving forward if elected? Again,
Transparency in what regard?
transparency in terms of the funding that's being misused.
So, all you have to do is go to the legislature, the full legislature. We're having a session next week.
Mm-hmm.
And since December, every session, I talk about it, and I shine light on it. And I indicated that I would do it, and I will continue to do it. Until we get our just economic resources, like the 60% of the county is getting.
Right. Okay. Could you tell everybody when exactly do they have the legislative meeting so they know?
The next legislative session, today's the 24th, 25th, it's next Monday. I believe that's the 29th.
29th.
It's coming at 1 o'clock.
Okay, 29th at 1 o'clock. So, how do you plan to get more millennials involved with government?
Well, actually in my campaign right now, I have a number of youth, both high school and college, who are working for my campaign. And I believe that in getting them involved in my campaign, it provides insights into the workings of government, and it gives them experience in seeing how things work, both from a campaign standpoint and actual governmental administration. So I always encourage, it's one of my favorite things to work with the youth, and so for me, I encourage that, and I try my best to give them as much of an experience as I can.
Okay, and how do you plan to help with affordable housing?
So I think right now, the Village of Hempstead is doing a really good job with that, in terms of I think there's over 400 units that are being built up right now next to the Long Island Railroad, and I know that there are plans for more. And if I understand it correctly, those are rental units, and there will be different tiers in those units. So there are some allocated for veterans, there's some for low income, there's some for moderate income, and there's market rate rental units as well. So most of those are within walking distance to the railroad, and there's going to be a new supermarket, and it's just creating an environment that will allow the younger people who don't have as many resources to stay here, which is a challenge for everybody.
Okay. So I have one more question, and two more questions. So my last question is that oftentimes I know that small businesses sometimes struggle because a lot of people come in, people go in there and they start stealing and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, some of them are kind of let go. And there's been a lot of talk, how do you plan to put some kind of legislation in place to help some of these small businesses when they're dealing with people that are going and stealing and being released based on, the changes of legislation that took place with the bail reform laws? What kind of legislation do you see you plan to put in place to stop that from happening?
So bail reform is a state issue, and I can say this, that while there were good intentions for bail reform in some respects, I also believe that it wasn't rolled out the best way it could be. And I can tell you that as a result of that, there have been many amendments to the bail reform. So the idea that it's a turnstile and somebody gets out, they get arrested, they get out, get arrested. There are now ways that judges have authority to set bail on them now. So that the current law has been modified any number of times, which really minimizes something like that happening. But that is really a state issue, and I understand people's frustration about it, but by and large, you can always find an exception to anything, but by and large, those issues have been resolved through amendments.
Okay. And what are your top priorities if elected?
So I want to continue to being the best legislator I can be. And that means being mindful of the needs of my constituents and scrutinizing the budget and making sure that we get the most value for the tax dollars that we spend. And just continuing to do what I do, but just continue to get better. I can say that I would never imagine that as a legislator, when I started in 2024, I would be where I am today and ascertain as much experience and knowledge as I've had. And I think that's just the beginning. And I will continue to grow and continue to build relationships and continue to advocate. And I think those are the most important parts of being a legislator. And probably the biggest part of it is it's not an agenda that I have, it's to listen, continue to listen. And when things come up, when I became a legislator, I had no idea that the first issue that I would have to deal with would present itself to me in a month. And that was the issue with the water. But because I was mindful of what the issue was, there was no reluctance or hesitancy for me to deal with it head on. And so whatever the future brings, it's about me being responsive and being an advocate for my constituents and using all of my life experience in order to help in that regard. And so for me, I just to continue to be vigilant, continue to be an advocate, and I don't believe that you should ever start trying to resolve an issue with a fight. a fight is always a last resort. If it comes down to that, then that's what it will be. But for me, I would much rather use my powers of persuasion in order to accomplish your goal. If I want something from you and you have it, I'm going to do my best to persuade you why that would be a really good idea for you to give it to me. But if you're taking something that belongs to me and I ask for it and you don't give it to me, then we'll do whatever we need to do to get it. And that's really how I look at things.
Well, I thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Do you have any last words before we finish out?
Absolutely. So, vote, vote, vote. Many people complain about the state of affairs in politics, in government, in your community, but you do have an avenue to address them. And that avenue is to exercise your right to vote. I can tell you as somebody who is elected, somebody who is running again, what people in power look at is where people vote. If you don't vote, you're not going to get the same attention that those who do vote. So I would encourage all of you, that early voting starts at the 25th, I believe it's the 25th of October, and it goes to the November 2nd, and that's early voting, and you can also vote by mail. And the early voting is at any early voting center, and if you don't vote during that period of time, then you have to vote in your designated voting site, which is on November 4th. So, my message is vote, vote, vote.
Okay, everyone. You know, what I always say is that you heard the conversation, we conversed, and make sure that you get out there and vote because it's so important, because your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice. So make sure that you guys vote. Have a good day, everyone.